Hi, Pastor Dustin here with my first thoughts on the text for the third Sunday after Pentecost, which is taking place this coming Sunday, June 14th, 2015. It's awesome to be back here in beautiful Schenectady, New York. I was away on a trip to the Holy Land for a little over 2 weeks, leading a pilgrimage of young adult Lutherans from around the country that will learn about kind of some of the social justice issues that are going on, especially related to the occupation of the West Bank. But yeah, wow, I loved this Sunday's gospel text. It's one of my favorites. It's the story of the mustard seed. It's sort of kind of a famous parable of Jesus's, and the general idea is that your faith is, or often it's read as, the mustard seed's the smallest of the seeds, and then it grows into a giant plant, and that, the analogy goes, that's what faith is like. Your faith grows from like this small thing to this giant thing. You've probably, a decent chance at least, you've heard a sermon that roughly says that. I have a little bit of a different take on the text, but first of all, I'll read part of it. So the text as a whole is Mark 4:26-34, but I'll just, to cut it a little bit shorter, I'll just read 30-32. Jesus also said, "With what can we compare the kingdom of God, or what parable will we use for it? It is like a mustard seed, which when sown upon the ground is the smallest of all the seeds on earth. Yet when it is sown, it grows up and becomes the greatest of all shrubs, and puts forth large branches, so that the birds of the air can make nests in its shade." So, one of the reasons this parable is so great is that this phrase, the kingdom of God, Jesus sort of throws around that phrase pretty often in the Bible, in the Synoptic Gospels especially, it's never entirely a concretely defined term. And not that this parable concretely defines it either, but I think it gives us a big hint about what the kingdom of God looks like, and sort of also how God works to bring about that kingdom coming in. So, when I first read this earlier today, it actually reminded me of another, maybe more recent story. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of Gandhi's Salt March in 1930. We'll talk a lot more about it this Sunday, but essentially, as a form of civil disobedience, when poor people, well, everyone in India, instead of just going out to like the seashore and like evaporating some water to make salt, and everyone needs a lot of salt in India because it's hot and you get really sweaty and you need to replenish your salt. The British at the time, who were ruling India, required you to buy salt from them and pay a tax and all this sort of stuff. And so, as an act of civil disobedience, Gandhi decided to march all the way to the sea and simply make salt instead of paying the tax. So it's kind of one little thing, one little stand for justice. And a lot of the people would say that this one little thing was sort of like really the galvanizing moment for the India independence movement. I mean, they didn't fully reach independence until another decade later, I believe. I'm getting my history right. 1904? No, a little bit longer actually. But it was a kind of a galvanizing moment when, especially where Indian independence didn't become as much of an intellectual class thing, but sort of became a mass struggle. The mile that followed Gandhi, or the folks gathered behind Gandhi as he was marching to the sea. That the march was like 2 miles. Like the people were 2 miles long, 2 mile long line going all the way to the sea. So, to me, I think that is kind of more what the kingdom of God is like. It can often start off with the Spirit working through us in some incredibly, seemingly tiny ways, making salt, sort of just picking up some ocean water and evaporating it, but can turn into a massive thing. And in some really unexpected ways. But it's not just this idea of the small actions can turn into big things, but I think it's also, when we think of the phrase "the kingdom of God," it seems like this sort of big, like lofty sort of deal. But I don't. That's not what I think the parable is telling us. So in the parable, there's an idea that the mustard seed grows into these shrubs that provide shade and that sort of thing. When I think of the salt march, salt was a symbol of doing this was a symbol of against the British Empire, but it also was a very concrete thing. Like salt was a very important human need, and so. Yeah, the kingdom of God, it's not just something that starts out small and grows massively. I think it's something that often starts out small and grows massively in a way that deeply provides in concrete ways for human needs. And I'm sorry that my dog is being crazy in the background, by the way. But so that is my thought on the kingdom of God. The idea that it's something that can start small and grow massively pretty quickly. God works in amazing ways. And in ways that are especially deeply linked to important human needs, not just sort of these crazy, lofty, abstract things. So that's my first thoughts on the text for this Sunday, the third Sunday after Pentecost. And I'll leave y'all with a question. Simply, how would you define the kingdom of God? Thanks so much. This is Pastor Dustin from Messiah Lutheran Church in wonderful Schenectady, New York. And have a blessed week. Bye.